Hello to you. Really appreciate your time. It's been reported that Simmons is set to pull the plug on the Boomers campaign in Tokyo. We'll start with that. What was your reaction when you heard the news?
It's obviously disappointing. I mean, he's an integral part of what the Boomers are trying to get to and would be. He's the best Australian-born NBA player or basketball player in the world as of now. But am I surprised? No, I'm definitely not surprised. I had an inkling, I spoke about it on my podcast a couple of weeks ago, if not months ago, that I just didn't think he'd put his hand up. I think there was perfect paths to pull out, whether it was having a rough shooting series or going all the way to a championship that then would have been rest. So, and it's his decision. Look, I'm not criticising him for pulling out and wanting to better his game, but it's more the tease and the allure of is he in or is he not? And that's something that Basketball Australia can never get an answer on.
We always talk about the Boomers culture. Is there anything that the older players, Joe, Paddy, Aaron Baines, can do to work with him and try and get him on board and bought in?
Yeah, maybe sign with Clutch Sports. Probably the most obvious thing. Honestly, I think that'd be the first step is sign with LeBron's agency. But I mean, to be blunt, Joe, if you need to be recruited to play for your national team and be denied and have a presentation about why you should play, you should play. That's my opinion on it. I mean, it's something that, look, you give up your off season, you're going to miss time that you could be spending with family on a beach, having a few beers that we all want to do at times. And if you want to do that, by all means. But it's a big commitment to play for your national team. And I just don't think it's something that you need to be wooed to do.
How does the team shape up if he's not there in Tokyo? Is there enough depth for them to still be successful and get that elusive medal?
I think there is. It's just a question of who's going to be that extra few horses that we have. Obviously, our core with Joe, Daly, Bainesy, Paddy, Josh Green's now up and coming, so there's a few guys in there. Goulding's having a great NBL season. Jock Landale, of course. There's probably some guys I've missed, but I think the core that we had in the World Cup will be there. It's going to be, that bench is going to be restructured to how Brian Goorjian wants to see it fit. But, Ben's a supreme athlete, one of the best at open floor basketball, physical, and, he would have made a difference. And don't forget, he's, a top 5, top 10 defender in the NBA. So that's a big hole to fill, but it's also a hole we've never had to fill because he's never played. So we don't, it's bittersweet. We don't really know what he can bring because he's never brought it for the national team.
Yeah, fair enough. In terms of the 76ers going down to the Hawks, we saw Ben give up that dunk late in Game 7. Joel Embiid's reaction on the court said a lot, but then he brought it up in post-game as well. What have you made of everything that we've seen in the past day or so around that?
It's tough. I mean, I've been through similar journeys at times, after the elbow and arm injuries. I got hacked at times to be put on the free throw line. And there were some series where I shot it well and some that I shot it poorly. And it is a lonely place and you want to make sure your teammates have your back. So that's professional sports. Stars are always going to look to blame someone else. And I think Joel's found his scapegoating Ben and everyone's piling on Ben. And yeah, he had some instances there where he wasn't aggressive and it got in his head. But, Joel also had 8 turnovers in the game. He turned the ball over a lot in that series. He had an MVP type year, but I don't like those kind of leaks from anyone. And this just shows me that I think the Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons experiment is over. I don't think it's going to go forward anymore. I don't know who's, most likely Ben's the candidate of getting moved. Big contract to move is the other problem. But, those comments just tell me there's a disconnect there now that I think that's going to be hard to be fixed.
Do you think Ben deserves the criticism?
Does anyone deserve the criticism to the extent he's getting? No. I mean, that's today's social media, the media, the pile-on. It seems like, I checked into Twitter after that game and still to 24 hours later, it's still pile-on Ben, all the memes and the internet and all that. It can be funny, but, that's something he's got to deal with. And, I think his shot's one thing, but, there's going to be that mental aspect now. So the off season for him is very, very important. It's not just going to be, in my opinion, about getting 1,000 free throws up a game, a practice day, in the off season. There's going to have to be some a psychologist involved, a sports psychologist. I hope he gets involved. And just, I went through a similar process, to be honest with you. It's about similar to golf. For golfers out there, it's having the yips when you're putting. You got to think about the next shot and not think about, even if you missed the last 100, you got to think about those next 2 shots. And it's easier said than done when there's 20,000 people screaming at you to miss. So he's got to work that out in off season. And there's some criticism deserved because he's a max guy on that roster. But to the extent we see it today with pylons, I'm not a huge fan of it.
How hard will it be? Doc Rivers said that he has a plan to help him in the off-season, but specifically he said Ben has to want to do it and have that desire himself. How tough is it to access that when you're, I guess, as you say, in a really lonely place?
Well, that's why I think it's going to be as much mental and psychological as it is the fine art of shooting. It's not, I think his jump shot, obviously everyone's saying it's broken and he can't fix it. I think that's some of the problem, but it's not the whole problem. It's that confidence. And, Ben's game is paint attack, getting in the lane, shooting those hooks that he shoots, constantly putting pressure on the paint. And all of a sudden, if he's 0 for 4 in a game from the free throw line, we've seen it. The last 2 playoff series is he kind of, when the other teams are in the bonus, he kind of strays and defers a little bit to Joel and gets off the ball really quickly. It was noticeable. So he didn't want to get back to the line, and that's something that he's got to work through. And I think he's capable of doing it. He's one of the best players in the world, an elite level talent. He's had to face adversity throughout his career numerous times, even in college at times. And I back him to put a summer in where we don't see, all the kind of the usual social media stuff about I'm working on my shot, all that. I hope he just knuckles down, gets in there, works on his mental game and his free throws, and he comes back. I'm pulling for him to come back and, have that fixed next season. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah, let's hope so. You mentioned that you think he'll be on the move. The Warriors are one of the teams suggested for where he could end up. Would you like to see him at your old team?
Yeah, I don't buy into the trade rumors as of yet. I mean, I would, but there's so many, you see so many people now commenting on Ben Simmons trade rumors. They people that have no idea about how salary caps work, have no idea what contracts guys are on. So I guess we're just going to let the dust settle. The first step is the draft is going to happen. So teams going to fill their rosters up with draft picks, and then you'll start seeing some moves. But right now, it's a bit early to say where he's going to go if he does go. He's making a lot of money, and it's a contract that is a hefty amount of money for someone to take in on their salary cap. So it's not going to this trade, in my opinion, isn't going to happen overnight. It could happen after draft night with some picks and whatnot, but we'll have to see what happens with that.
Before I let you go, the NBA playoffs are obviously wide open now. The top 2 seeds are gone. The super team Brooklyn are out as well. Not many would have predicted that. The Suns lead the Clippers 1-0, and then it's the Hawks and Bucks in the East. Who do you see making the finals?
I mean, we do picks on my podcast, and everyone we've made has been wrong.
You guys are terrible at picks on your podcast.
Awful. It's all, we've got a few right. We got Coach of the Year right at least, and I did get the Ben Simmons thing right. So it's so everything's upside down. Not only basketball, but the world with COVID and everything. Everything is just upside down. And I had Phoenix losing the first round. Had obviously Brooklyn beating Milwaukee, as most people did. But if I had to pick one team that I'd like to win it, would be the Milwaukee Bucks after spending 8 years there in my career, and a city that kind of went from a boy to a man, and a special place, sentimental place in my heart. I'd love to see Milwaukee, Giannis not leaving and going to the bigger, brighter lights, actually staying in a small market and signing that extension. Kudos to him. I'd love to see him rewarded with a championship.
Yeah, look forward to that series with the Hawks. They've also been super impressive. Bogut, always great to get your thoughts. Thanks so much for your time.
No worries, thanks.